Kia ora, hello everyone. My name is Wiri. Welcome to the You Be the Judge podcast show. And welcome to today's episode. This is going to be a very special episode. We're going to be delving into the fascinating world of the sun, exploring its cycles and how they might impact not only our planet but also our minds and consciousness. We'll talk about ancient solar cycles dating back to 3000 BCE, the concept of unitary consciousness, and how some believe that we're nearing the culmination of a grand time cycle. Our guest brings a unique perspective, combining insights from meditations and studies into time cycles. We'll also touch on some of the effects of mind control on society and how awareness can counteract these influences. This will be an interesting journey through cosmic energy, consciousness, and the role of the sun in shaping both physical and mental abilities. So sit back and let's explore these intriguing ideas together. I'd like to welcome to the show our very special guest, and she's been on before, Poppy. Kia ora, how are you? Welcome.
Kia ora, Wiri. I am fantastic. I'm the best I've ever been, and I'm very excited to about this sharing. It will actually be very uplifting, I feel, for people to know this. What's incredible things that are happening with us right now, as far as consciousness goes, and the activity of the sun, and where we are in time.
Seeing that the sun is ramping up big time, lots of solar activity going on up there. At the same time, I feel there are forces trying to block the sun and some of these the energy that it's impacting on us socially. So where would we like to start? I mean, give us an update on what you've been doing and maybe a little bit for those that are new to the podcast on who you are.
Right. Well, yeah, it's very hard to say who I am cosmically. Well, I keep that to myself right now, I guess. We've been here forever, really, haven't we? And in this life, I came in basically with a lot of knowledge, that the Matrix gatekeepers did their best that they possibly could to suppress and to stop this message from coming out. Yeah, so I do. I have cycles of from way back. I have ancient remembrance of Mayan times, Mayan cosmology. So that's what I connect in with. And part of my healing of my life was actually as a truth seeker. I wanted to find out what is the truth, what runs this matrix? Why are we so captured? Why can such terrible trauma happen? And how do we get out? And these were the questions that I really had in my life. I think I was exploring it my whole life. Extreme trauma in my life, which that's over, that's past, and I don't even feel that I have to share that, because it's really come to this place now where this culmination of time, okay, it's happening in so many of our personal lives. And what people are actually discovering is that, we've been here like from way back, planets ago, even maybe even from the primordial void. And we all have a different soul journey. And during this time, we've had all these different epochs and eras, hostile takeover, at which became extremely patriarchal time. So when I'm looking at the Mayan calendar and Dr. Carl Kellerman's work on discovering the ninth waves, which is the perfect geometry which is in the calendar, and looking back over history from about 3115 BC, this was what we'd call a patriarchal era that came in, and this was an era of almost like anti-source. So we've got source, which comes through the sun all the time. The energies are coming through the sun to us, and we can connect in by being connected with ourselves, with nature. So there is source, and we are a source, and really there's no separation. And the separation has been one of the biggest tricks and illusions I think that humanity has endured. But because of this massive trauma, like there has been galactic wars, there have been all sorts of things. So pre 315 BC was the introduction of the pyramids, and they brought in a lot of different consciousness. So even like we're living in a physical simulation. I think one of your recent guests talked about this physical simulation, and so all our perception of everything out there is a perception within a mind control matrix, and we are really busting out of this matrix, and it's an absolutely personal journey that that people find, and so no one can do it for us, and we find our way in connection with source. So this culmination is like, it's like having remembered all our lives, all sorts of things, and clearing away the harm, the dross, everything that has come from those lives. And so many people are at this point where in the culmination of time, so time is quickened to a point where it's just becoming timelessness. It's becoming now. And this is like what's known and what people commonly understand as the fifth dimension, which is just love. It's really, really love. And we weave through time where it's like we're not stuck in time. But there's been a false time construct which got built, which started to come in around 3115 BC. And this came in with through the Sumerian times and the Babylonian priesthood. So the Babylonian priesthood created time matrices or a time construct that were based upon, they made the calendars. They literally made the calendars. And now we have this calendar which is dominant in this world, which comes from the Vatican, which was originally created. It's been upgraded, but it's created out of the Babylonian priesthood. But what the Babylonian priesthood did was they introduced the whole psychological operation of good and evil consciousness. So what they did, we've had this, we have the Mayan calendar, which has been observed for thousands of years by the Maya, and these are pure source energies that come through the sun. They're not connected to any planet. They are not connected to any other bodies. It's just the pure cosmic source energy that comes through the sun. And so what happened is that they basically stole the Mayan knowledge and they created the zodiac. The zodiac was a bunch of planets that they assigned like beneficent and malevolent gods to. And I'm going to pick on Saturn because what they did, and this was the Greek god Cronus, was attached to Saturn. So Cronus is, so in astrology they'll say, oh, Saturn is the father of time. That is the god of time. Cronus, chronological, linear time. So linear time is actually an illusion. And it's a binding. So it's like a mentality that always gets us working for the man, basically. So and what they did was that the priests would make ritual dates where there would be sacrifices, like animals and then humans, and it really got that there was a lot of satanic ritual abuse was happening. And these days are pinned to days popularized that they make into celebrations. So it's very polarized. So you'll have the most wicked rituals on one side, and then you'll have maybe something beautiful and celebratory as well. But the light empowers the dark empowers the light. It's like crazy. So they actually love to have humanity celebrating things like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, portal days, 11/11. We just had one of those. Now, those are connected to this chronological Cronus time system. And so this is keeping people in a false time construct. And so they really want people to go, hey, yay, 11/11, you know, and we're always going to go through the next portal, and then we're going to go through the next portal. And so it becomes a timeline. You're always going to be chasing the proverbial carrot to whatever that goal might be, but it's always their goal. So when we start to really, really connect with the source energy that comes through the sun each day, that's when we actually start to access that. We can go higher and higher and higher through the dimensions, so that we are transcending linear time, the timelessness, which is meaning we're right in now. And in the now, when we're really there, we can actually weave through time. We can repair from the old and the past, and we can even change things that are potentials of the future. So what happens is that in your meditations, and this is one way that I've had to keep myself safe, because of who I am, they literally have killed me and I have come back. So there's been several near-death experiences I've had. I didn't actually realize until this last year, when I was reclaiming all my memory, that it was more often than twice that I've actually died. And in that state, when you're dead and out of your body, there's all sorts of technology and all sorts of stuff that can get put into your body from that trauma and all of that. But that's another whole topic. But yeah. So and you know, like as you were saying, Wiri, there's all kinds of technology to try and blank out the strength of the sun, to try and get in there, to get in front of the sun. It's like shields that go up in front of the sun. And actually what was in me was a shield that was blocking me from the source energy. And this was placed in through satanic ritual, which is something that was the invention of the Babylonian priesthood. And what people don't realize is that they rely on the energy and the blood of the innocents to bring them up and to have their way, and to play with time and to make heaps of money off stock markets or whatever, because that was their, I mean, the money system is their technology, and that it's got in the way between us, because there's a whole family of us here on earth at this time. Our creative capacity and potential is absolutely enormous. So they want to hijack that, they want to harness that, they want to suck it, they want to siphon it out. And a lot of the attachments and everything get put in on ritual dates and rituals that actually will take our consciousness, use everything. So with the culmination of time, like through all these eras of time, which we go back, you know, way back, you know, to the first cell, you know, even beyond that, right back to the primordial void properly, which, you know, I don't think we can measure infinity. but what happens is that we've had these eras of time. It's a perfect geometry of 20 times 13 periods of time. And so time used to move incredibly slowly, you know, like imagine being a rock and you're just sitting there and you're just observing, but you have a consciousness, and everything does have a consciousness. And then we went up through different things. Then there was like the shamanic era, which is like, that was the fifth wave before, which was very shamanic. And people were connected to the earth, they were connected to source, they lived very instinctively, there was peace, there was harmony. And then we went into the sixth era, and this was after the introduction of the pyramids, which I believe are actually giant spaceships that were here to do technology to connect to Orion or whatever, different galactic places that actually came in from the Draconis reptilian thing. Now, Stuart Swerdlow, you may have heard of him. He's time travelled, and this is his take on it, which I've only heard secondhand. I've tried to get more information on that, but it also brought in that consciousness of the 8 sectors and the compartmentalization of our brains and our consciousness. So this was so every area of time is connected to a different function of the brain. So in the sixth wave, which started 3115 BC, that was the left brain, and this is where we entered a very patriarchal era, very warish, very dualistic, and then you bring in, and things evolved over time. They know about this geometry, and it went into the Masonic secret societies that have been trying to create a whole global new world order that run the shadow governments. And the shadow governments, they even include the secret space program. And so they are all privy to this esoteric knowledge, but they've tried to hold humanity in this consciousness of, and because of trauma, in different wars, even galactic wars, but trauma that have gone through dark ages, that split our consciousness away from source. And it's kind of like we've been in this era, which I'm actually starting to call anti-source. So I heard this from another woman who runs things in the background, who I find very, very interesting. And it looks like she's also been used in satanic ritual as well. But so this anti-source time was like separation from source through the psychological operation of our consciousness, which came in with the mining of gold. It came in with a Babylonian slave driving system that ended up going into civilization, where they could get everybody to take roles and to compete for money, which of course is a warring, competitive thing. So we've had to heal all of our trauma, and as we've risen up, we went into the seventh wave, and then eighth wave, and then when we went into the ninth wave, which began in 2011, and it really, in 2012, it kind of sealed it in. That was the era where humanity, the source energies, were actually trying to bring us back into unitary consciousness again. And so we were in unitary consciousness in the seventh wave, which was before everything coming in as imposition, replication, and usurpation, basically, of the feminine, which was the earth. So she has been incredibly usurped, because we have the masculine and the feminine, that when we, so the source energies being like the masculine, and then the creation being like the feminine, like us, we need to be like pillars that embrace the both, and we form that big toroidal field that comes out between the two, connection of the two. So when I was saying that they even try to put shields in front of the sun, or shield it even with all the metal particulates from, the chemtrailing and the HARP and the now chemtrailing, often people think it's a governmental thing. James Bartley has done a lot of research on that. He's like a cosmic historian, and he has many qualifications, but he talks very much that a lot of these craft that are delivering these chemtrails are not even, they're an illusion, a little bit like, you know, the Twin Towers and that airplane apparently that went in there. I don't know, but they are not, they're from out of this world. So even a lot of the chemtrailing is from out of this world, or the geoengineering and the terraforming and everything like that. So there's so much going on with the sun at the moment. So the source, you know, from the cosmic axis, the source energies come through the sun. It's an incredible portal of light. And so it's actually light frequency. These source energies are a light frequency. Time is not a clock thing. That's the illusion. Well, actually, that is time. So it's about frequency that is coming through, and these energies are coming through. And the sun, so we've reached this great, big, beautiful solar maximum, and we're right at the top of the solar maximum right now. And so the sun is all hurling out flares. There's a lot going on right now on the opposite side of the sun, which we don't even hear about, but that is very much Source doing its thing to really help us awaken and to bring our consciousness back into Source alignment. After, you know, millennia of separation and misery and suffering and entrapment. It's like we are in a labyrinth, and we have to find the way out. And that's a personal journey for each one of us. So people that are very much on this trajectory, they'll be aware of past lives. They're usually traumatic past lives, because that needs to be resolved and forgiven. Really, forgiveness is the discharge of the energy that is associated with the trauma. Ultimately, that's what it does. And yeah, so I've spent a whole year, which happened. It's so interesting because of my past with I'm starting to call it Masonic ritual abuse more so these days, now that I realise who it came through.
How do these cycles impact us? And like, what do you think? Why they impact us, and like how do they impact us on Earth? Some believe that it affects our moods, mental clarity, and emotional states as well. So, can you give us your insight about that?
Yeah, so these source energies that come through the sun, they you know, like this, they're coming. The Maya kept records of all of that, and they all interweave with different energies, which give us the power. And what happens is you'll find that humanity, or us beings, are going through similar parallel journeys the whole time, because we're connected with Source ultimately. So what happened with me is that technology was actually put inside of me, which was a shield to try to stop me from connecting with both the Earth and with Source. But I managed to bypass it through another way. So we should have a straight column of source light that goes right through our whole being, up from the earth and down from the sky, and we circulate that energy around. But then, you know, these interferences have come, and so the actual source energies that were coming through the sun right now, I reported on this, and the return to that is right in motion right now. So, for example, we're in a night wave of 8 read, I think, and that the read is that connection between Earth, us being the pillars between heaven and earth. We are the pillars and the ones that will also speak out for causes. And so this energy is really, really with us at the moment. Now, astrology will put it into a different light because it's come off that Babylonian zodiac, and then there's the Chinese zodiac, and there's another zodiac, but they're all very similar. They all brought in that similar energy of the good and the evil. Whereas the unitary consciousness, which we're in that era right now, is there isn't good or bad. There's no good or evil, but there's an absolute observation of what is. Okay, when we look at it, we do observe that there is a war going on because we're finishing off the old eras of time. We're finishing off the warring. The more people that can really tune in and enter into that unitary consciousness, which is just gorgeous. And it's full connection with earth and sky. It's or source and creation. Here, the earthly creation, because we're here with earth to help her ascend. So she helps us, we help her. It's a very symbiotic connection.
Do you believe the sun then helps humanity reach this unitary consciousness as well?
Absolutely, absolutely, because the light that comes through the sun holds the energy of the evolutionary power. So it causes us to evolve and to take all these steps of now. And so we'll find that, a whole bunch of humanity will be taking care of a past life. You'll find that these things will all happen at a similar time in a different way, because every single one of us is a source, connected with source or not. But if we are connected with source, then we have that power to evolve onto the next stage. And a lot of that, everyone has a different purpose, but that evolution is that when we heal ourselves of any good and evil consciousness, all that shocking, terrible stuff that could have happened to us, and we heal, then we heal it on behalf of everybody. And so each one of us is deconstructing this old matrix with our presence and with our life in connection with what's coming through the sun. And I just love it. I get so excited when we have these big flares on particular days, because there are certain days where it's going to be much more active. And we're actually like in a storm Tresina right now, which is like enlightening our psychology, our neural pathways. It's changing our mind. So, and the mind it goes beyond our brain, obviously. But the ones that have wanted to capture us and disconnect us from source, they've just wanted us to not know who we are at all, and to be, if we don't know, because we're each such a powerful source within ourselves, evolving, and when we don't know, then they just take over and they will hijack and infiltrate our energy to use it for their purposes, because they cannot actually create it themselves. And that's why they are writers. And look, I've just had the most amazing sessions. What actually, one part of it is that something could grab onto me because I'm connected to multi-dimensions, because I'm connected with source, ancient soul, just like you, Wiri, and so many of people that are actually able to even hear this, because of that connection. They can only really go around and spiral around in the third dimension, the lower fourth. So they will try to find people that are still not fully aware of all their source or whatever, how powerful they are. they will siphon and they will jump in, and they can go up to these higher dimensions and gain cosmic knowledge, which should have been my cosmic knowledge, or for the purposes of sharing who we really are and how we can really transcend this matrix. So they will grab on, and then they will pull our energy back down. So they want to keep us as low down as possible with fear, with hijacking, with siphoning. So we have a chakra system, and the chakra system, so that this, yeah, I'm really tuning into this amazing soul. He's done degrees in AI to really understand AI, because not all of AI isn't. Some of it's sentient, some of it's not all bad, but there's really malicious AI that has been, it's been around forever. But this is the next big agenda, because they've done the health, they've done where they've traded and exchanged us on the stock market, they've done all of that, and now the next biggest thing is AI, and who do we have now right next to the newly elected president but Elon Musk, who creates the brain implants. So I'm like, everyone's going, wow, it's so wonderful, look, and they're taking out this policy, they're doing that, and they're going to remove fluoride, but none of that matters if AI is the next agenda. It just doesn't matter. And I'm like, why can't people see this? Why can't people see that? Now, I know, because I've been listening to a woman called Jessie Zibota. Now, she got herself out of being groomed. So she was in wicked satanic ritual abuse. She was being groomed to be the head of the shadow government. Okay, so we're only seeing the front people. The shadow government's behind. Now, she says Elon Musk was one of the ones in her team, and other people, such as Stone as well. Now, these people have been groomed for their positions. Now, unless they can get out and break free, which Jessie has done, which is miraculous, and she's sharing this information now about all the secret societies. And when we see that, everything that is beautiful, everything that is organic, and everything that is natural has been taken and it's been imposed on and replicated. So, okay, we have this amazing being that many people would know as Jesus, and there's different names for it. So they created a Luciferian Jesus through religions. They created even a book which has a lot of truth, the Bible, which was published by King. They changed that. King James changed that. That came out the year after demonology. Okay. Now, the Bible is one of the greatest psychological operations on earth. It's got predictive programming in it. Now, there's so many ways that people can look at it. They see the history of the anarchy, they see all of that. But one thing that I'm really well aware of is, if people are going to be sucked into this predictive programming, they're going to use human consciousness to create a nuclear war. Because that's what's in the Bible coming next in Ezekiel 38, where the kings of the north come from, over to the unwalled cities, which are America, and a nuclear war is that. Who wants this to happen? We've got to stop this we've got to realize it's predictive programming. Another one, which is huge, is The Simpsons. That's predictive programming. And I keep seeing all these memes, and they say, oh, now, next thing, Donald Trump's going to be assassinated because it's in The Simpsons. Okay, The Simpsons was created from the Masons. So they disclose everything, but then they also use it for predictive programming. So you've got cartoons with very little information and a lot of sigil, a lot of AI, there's all sorts in there, then you are actually getting people to even predict to their creation, their consciousness will be harvested to be used for the detriment. And when I see those memes come out on Facebook, I just know the Masons put that in there because they want to make it so they build up a lot of attention and people go, oh, see, it's there, but they don't seem to realize that it's actually predictive programming. And this is where consciousness is getting hijacked and harvested by psychological operations. So the matrix is a massive psychological operation connected to a false time construct of linear time. And I've upset so many people by saying linear timelines. No, that's the illusion. When you're talking about timelines, you're stuck here in this false time construct because time is not linear. And what's coming through from source, no way is linear. That is the trap. And it's always going, you're always like, well, where is this line going to? A timeline is always a trap because it's always got the goal way out here. And if we are going and connecting with the sun and the energies that are coming from source, then we are now. We are present. We are in our bodies. We're not chasing, we're not ahead of ourselves, we're not behind ourselves, but yeah, we have access to all time all at once because it's timeless in those higher dimensions that source is sending the energies from.
Yes, that makes sense. You talked a lot there about a whole bunch of different topics, and in relation to the sun, also in relation to what's happening now, what has happened in the past. You talked there a little bit about the Bible, and funnily, this morning I was watching Billy Carson, and he talked exactly about what you were talking about. He talked about how the Bible was created by King James. King James was into witchcraft and sorcery, and in connection with demonic entities, and the Bible is a man-made construct. So amazing how I read it. I watched the video this morning just before we came on here, and now you're talking about the same thing. So I think we're resonating on the same frequency there. You did talk a little bit about AI too. I'm right now doing AI programming, trying to understand AI, and it is something that we do need to be very cautious about. I mean, I've been dealing a lot with ChatGPT 1.0, which is one of the most powerful versions of AI right now. And some of the things that it's doing, it's almost as if it's actually sentient. Um,
Yeah.
and this is another thing I delved into a little bit of the simulation construct, and there was a guy that created this invention where he used lasers and he pointed it at an object, and it could be a wall or it could be a microphone. And what he found was when he looked further into the object, he could see code, like matrix
Yeah.
code running down, which
Yep.
meant to him that this is a created illusion, and he believed that there's some form of very high intelligent AI that's creating the simulation. And that falls in line with what we've been talking about, shields, the nets, the soul nets, and all this kind of thing. Do you think that with the sun resonating the way it is currently right now, it will it will imbue us, it will wake us up to actually escape and break this matrix system once and for all?
Well, it absolutely is. I feel very fortunate that I discovered the Mayan calendar that was connected to that, because look, I was totally cut off because of what happened, and that was the intention. So the source energies that are coming through are awakening. They are enlivening us. They are physically changing us. They are changing our psychology. It's literally burning out our egos, which is fantastic, because the ego is part of the competitive matrix. It's the status where I'm better than you, you're better than me, and all of that, when in reality we are all 100% valuable souls, and that can't be compromised. But yeah, the blasts, like they're sending out, it's light as photons, and this is like, this interacts with our DNA. So now what do we, so it's sort of like quantum science, and I don't want to butcher this, but basically you have the particles, you have the light particle, and then you get the movement with the plasma, and that is the creation, and the light, so coming from the light, so it's literally lighting us up. We are light.
Illuminated.
Yeah. And so it's happening from the light frequencies, and also the sound, the universe.
One sound, one frequency.
Yeah, and we all harmonize in the universe. We can.
Well, Billy Carlson even mentioned this morning. He said that God is the frequency. It's one frequency. That's what God is.
Yeah. The highest of
Universe.
the high.
Yes. Yeah.
The highest of the high. So this is why Source, it's only Source that can deal with the nefarious AI, or the that can burn out even what's in our body, the implants, the things that get put in there in the invisible world that people don't even realize. So what's been discovered in me in the last couple of weeks was very, very dangerous implants that would have been installed through the MK Ultra programming and satanic rituals that I was in. They were actually booby trapped, so it had to have an expert to get in there to remove things and to cover and make sure that nothing could get escaped from my field, my being, so everything could be dealt with, because these implants were causing massive sickness, and it was causing paralysis and the hijacking of my consciousness. And so there was a huge one all around the neck and all of these things. And I've actually been, that's a little bit of a scar, but I was actually pulling things out physically, which are connected to it, because and this was where it all gets hidden within the matrix, because they just say that this is all psychosomatic and that it's imagination. And yeah, so quite recently I was in a situation, if I had lost my cool in that situation, I would have ended up being incarcerated in mental health and being fed antipsychotics. So my observer was out here watching, which has now come into my being, was watching that whole scenario and informing me how to be and what to do in that situation. And now, like, I can feel confident because Source is the highest of the high energies, and it can deal with anyone who tries to come in between me and that, because we are here with Source purpose. We are a source of Source. We're like, the separation is an illusion. So oh my gosh, like, it's humbling, it's incredible, it's beautiful to be connected. And being connected with Source, ultimately, we are connected with ourself. And it's very important that this vessel that is here to do this work, and for each of us to do our purpose, is in our full presence with all the technology taken off us, and there are very amazing people. So right at the moment, the source energies are about collaboration. It's about not doing it on our own, but it's about collaborating so that we can be the vessels that bring heaven to earth. And so for me, I've had to have all this technology taken out of me that is invisible. There was an incredible a lot of AI. Oh, I've just met the most incredible soul family. And, like for so long, we couldn't even be with our soul family. Like we were still too disconnected, especially before 2011. We were still really under the control of the matrix systems. It was like we were sort of finding our way out, and it was only our spontaneity, our intuition, and everything that could actually keep us safe, and also seeing like these are actually prescription glasses. Okay, I'm not trying to look like a secret agent or anything, but these are prescription glasses because big trauma happened when I was 2, and that stopped the way that I saw and the way that I heard. But it still meant that I saw and heard a little bit like how a baby would, or a little toddler. And so I've been able to see energy my whole life and hear energy, hear two things. So when people are not telling the truth, it's incredibly confusing for me because I hear the two things at once. But it's taken me such a long, long, long time to reach the refinement of coming back to myself, because I was so heavily programmed to give myself over and to be used and to be taken from. So it's the source energies. It was my finding, and it was through Ian Lungold, and I think you and I discovered Ian Lungold about the
Yes.
same time.
Yes, I studied a lot about Ian Langold, and he talked about, the times leading up to 2012 and the history of the Mayan calendar, and a lot of it made sense to me, and it definitely makes sense right now at this time, which is amazing. Now, before you talked a little bit about the false time construct, I want to ask, do you think if that coincides with the false awakening, meaning the steering away of people from their path, from their divine path, creating this false awakening? The Matrix is creating a false awakening. So, do you think the false
Yeah,
time construct is also coinciding with that?
yeah, I think people are stuck within the false time construct. Because their consciousness is still with the Gregorian calendar, celebrating all of these dates, which are actually ritual dates. Now, because I've been ritualized on those dates, I feel it's super, super, super strong. People celebrating being witches on Halloween, and I'm like, what about all the children that are killed?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
And all of them
yeah,
walking around as demons and
yeah, yeah, and like these were all created out of they're part of the rituals which belong to Cronus. It's quite interesting. You've got Titus, who's connected to Jupiter, which is all about names and signatures and titles, and like it's a really, really big screwing over. It was a consciousness that was really put in place and is held, but because people still are going by this, and also now I know some really great astrologies, and they tell it like it is. Like one of them is saying, "This is what's going to happen. This is what's in astrology," because she's actually connected to the whole Masonic regime, and she says this is the Masonic thing, and it's like that. So you can see and you can gather all sorts of information by astrology, but the consciousness is incredibly dualistic. You've always got oppositions. You're always going to have to watch out for so they made the bodies in the sky into they pinned these psychological things on them like Mars and all of this, whereas so it's actually became physical. It became like a physical, it's part of the, what is it, the physical matrix, the sorry, what was your word?
manifestation.
Yeah, yeah. But the source light, it's not, it's pure, it's just pure
Yes.
light that comes through the sun, and it doesn't, it's not bouncing off any of the planets. However, the planets are going to tell the story of what's created from our consciousness. So astrology is kind of like a secondary thing, but it's seen through a perception still of good and evil. And that is what we need to transcend and break out of. So, red versus blue, the political systems, politics are connected to the false time matrix. There are source energy. It's not about politics. It's actually about nature. It's connected to the natural way and the natural way of being, the organic human being or being, because, we are beings that have taken on this human form to do this purpose. So I think that it's actually a trap, and it's very hard because I kind of know this knowledge, but just about the whole world is caught in astrology, or even just the next date. We're always the next date. We're always the next date, the next date, the next date, the next date. We're
I
always
see that now, and YouTube algorithms are pumping that out to people. There's lots of videos going about, this date, fear-based stuff, this date, fear-based stuff, this date. And I'm just observing and I'm going, I can see how even the AI being used and abused to present this information, which then creates a false sense of a false awakening. And I can see
yeah,
that now. And I also can see how things like climate change are being brought in on the guys to steer away that the sun is the one impacting the planet because it's going through a change, it's going through a cycle. So they're
yeah.
going, oh no, it's your pollution that's creating it. No, 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 it's you using too much carbon. And this is why we need to have carbon credit. This is why we need to restrict. What's happening with the sun right now is being
Yeah,
used in a
yeah.
false way where they're saying that the problem is
Oh,
it's
yes.
not the sun, it's your pollution that's the problem. But actually it's the sun that's
Yeah,
creating these changes, and these changes are for the
yeah.
better.
Naming, blaming, shaming. That's their game. Naming, blaming, shaming, gaming. it all
Exactly.
goes it all goes together. And of course, like it defies basic knowledge that we need carbon. The forests need carbon to create the oxygen. Like it goes totally against nature, but by making the human being think that they're responsible for everything, of course. But there is another thing happening with the sun. So do you know about the Nibiru binary
Yes,
system?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that is right around the sun at the moment. So that's causing also a lot of electromagnetic pull, and but it's a weaponized system. So it is coming from, like if you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you'll get a few clues at like even the Vagon spacecraft, the cube craft. I keep seeing cube craft in the sky. So the way that you see it, like I look at the sky differently now. I want to look at it as if it's not anything I've ever been taught that it is. So when I see a perfectly square cloud like this, I know. So clouds are a change in atmosphere. It means they're around an atmosphere. And these cube craft are weaponized. Now, what happened in Lahuna, there was a cube craft over there. And okay, all the blue roofs didn't get done. The Florida, the massive big Helene, there were images of the waves and the water. There were frequencies that were coming down. Now, a lot of people say this is HARP, but I'm actually seeing that this is technology that's coming from this weaponized craft that are from Nibiru. I had visions years ago that, and I didn't know it was Nibiru that I was seeing, but I saw this big planet coming very, very close to Earth. It was very iron. It was very magnetic. It was very masculine. It was like, get out of my way. I'm doing this. but it was also showing me that it was pulling the matrix grid off the earth. So this is another big cycle that we're in. So all of these things, look, everything can be turned around for good when we're connected with source. It's the highest of the high. Source can take everything, and it takes our consciousness working with source as source to create the change and make the change. So there'd be need be no room for fear. But what I saw is that gatekeepers of the matrix, and it was funny because my mother was one and she was a massive handler in my life. We've had perfect resolution. She's in spirit. She was actually earthbound and she only just got released to go. That they're basically coming to connect different souls that go back into wherever Nibiru goes back to when it moves around and off it goes again, because it's in a cycle. So it and I'd have to say that in September we came to the massive completion of a cycle. We had reached 13 cycles of the Trasuna of the night wave. So yeah, Carl Culliman will explain that really, really well. But that was like we're closing down a cycle, and it happened in September. So we've actually gone past that now. So we've gone right back into source connection, the potential for source connection. We just have to make the connection. So humanity can make the connection when they know, regain their power, know who they are, because each one of us is an amazing, magnificent soul, much more than we've ever been led to believe. Not like the false construct of them trying to say you're dirty, horrible people polluting our earth, and it reminds me of the scene where Agent Smith was talking to Morpheus about being a virus infecting. You go from one place to another, and you just like a germ, you're a virus, and and that's their message. That is their message. They hate us because they are of the lower dimensions. They don't know what love is. Love. So every emotion is a frequency. We've got sound frequency, we've got light frequency, you've got emotion frequency. They are void of love and they want to keep people down. They're incredibly jealous of us. They want us, but they want to kill us too. They don't care. It was on the Georgia Guidestones. And honestly, so many people have been taken out. I just hope that enough people can wake up to this right now. I don't want to see a nuclear bomb put over the United States, which is the next big thing.
Yeah, because if one does, then it's all on. And I think humanity, or this, I call us the divine sparks, those that have the divine spark in. I believe there's also those that don't have divine spark, who I will call NPCs,
Yep.
as you've heard of that terminology before.
Yes.
I'm thinking that humanity's collective consciousness as divine sparks can manifest events, and I think this is also how this false awakening and all these negative events can be shaped, because people are being manipulated, not realizing who and what they are, that they are infinite conscious, that they're connected to source, and that we, powerful, connected together, are very powerful to manifest things, and people don't realize their own power, let alone collectively. And I believe that this cabal, they know, and so they're creating artificial versions to try and manipulate, hence transhumanism, hence creating a
Yeah.
hive mind, the mind of God, so that they
Yeah.
can control future events, so they can navigate to these events. And I think that us, if we can wake up, enough of us divine sparks can wake other divine sparks up, we can stop these events happening. We can stop this war happening. We can direct
Yeah.
to a beautiful new consciousness, and probably even to break down this matrix to go back to prime reality. That's what I call it,
Yeah.
prime reality. We're in a fake reality. And so,
Yeah.
if we can break through to getting back to prime reality, getting back to prime consciousness as well, I think that's the goal. And I think that's
Yeah.
what we should
Back to
focus
the
on.
primal void. Yeah.
Back to the
Yeah.
primal void. Yeah. Now,
Yeah. The,
I want to ask you something like, how do people keep grounded in these evolving times? There's so much things going on, which can sway people's perceptions here and there.
it's only fear that often is keeping people in that political thing, is thinking that still salvation is coming through politics. It will never come through politics. That is part of the psychological operations. So politics came in the sixth wave. Politics, religion, modern science, education system, the money system, all of those things are alien, binding constructs. They have technology. So I think it's very good for people to become aware of what is the technology. The technology is all spell casting, it's all legislation, which, by the way, all legislation is powered off the blood of children. My blood and a Maori woman's blood and sacrificed baby were part of a colonisation ritual here in New Zealand, which empowered financial banking. So people don't realise that all legislation is also ritualised, and that's done with black magic spells. So I think it's just being aware and staying in your place of love, but living in joy, even doing things that create joy. Like, I have a cat, and I get so much joy from the cat. I like to garden. I like to spend time out on nature. I like to watch the clouds. I love going down to the waterfalls. And that's one of the best ways that you can. That way you're connecting with yourself, you're connecting with nature. Meditation for a lot. Like, I had such a big life of meditation, but because I was cut off from source and I had to bypass and find a different way to connect with source, I had to use meditation for that, which meant hours and hours and hours of meditation a day. That was saving my life. But I was so sick that that was what it was anyway. So meditation is very good, but also being able to connect in with your body, to see the technology there, collaborate with people if you need clearing. We all need clearing. We all have things that are attached to us, which are maybe whispering in air and giving us false information. Anywhere there's fear, anywhere there's shame, anywhere there's guilt, anywhere there's any of these lower frequencies, they are not you. They are not you. They're attached to something that might have attached to you. So we need to be able to know how to clear ourselves through and through. And there are a few, like for me, I will go to those particular healers. They came into my life. I prayed. Source, show me, free me, right? Where's the heart's call? And when we use our voice in our prayers, that creates the vibration. So often people want to do everything from inside, and I'll pray. But the actual voice, the actual speaking it out, speaking it into, even like I use a lot of what they'd call light language too, which is just a pure language from my heart. So, like, I don't have to necessarily always think it, but because we still have this physical vessel, when we feel and put things into words by either speaking them out or writing them down, we connect the left and the right brain. And so because a lot of the agendas have been to separate us and the trauma will compartmentalize and go off into a place where it can be lost. We have to retrieve that. It's like a soul shard or a soul fragment. So bringing back our soul shards, our soul fragments, all into the one. Like, to me, my greatest thing, I just pray all the time. I love it. and it's like thank you, thank you, thank you. Now it's like excitement. It's different. It's like, instead of help me, I'm gonna die.
The
Yeah,
gratitude, you're giving gratitude and
yeah.
thankfulness. I also have the same. I do mantras as well every day. I have my
They're
own
great.
two list of mantras, which tries to connect with my consciousness, and I do those every day. And I have goals as well that I write down, and I voice them out. I voice them out too.
Beautiful.
So, and I think people need to get into these habits of writing down some goals, writing down some mantras, and then voicing them out, right? Putting them out
Yeah,
there, giving gratitude
yeah,
and being thankful of the opportunity to
yes.
experience this journey, even though it's a very, very dense journey, I believe.
Yeah,
Very, very
yeah,
dense. You
yeah,
talked a little bit before about language, and yes, we've both researched on this a lot, laws and legalese. And
yeah.
the latest thing that I'm seeing right now in New Zealand is how the coalition government back there is reviewing 28 different laws that contain references to the Treaty of Waitangi. They plan to change or remove these treaty clauses to make them, as they say, much clearer and more consistent. But then, as we talked about, this word magic, the manipulation of words, it does have an effect. You know, what are your thoughts on this? I do see right now there are thousands of people, New Zealand, Maori, Pākehā, all marching together and saying, no, we don't want this to happen. No, we've had enough of that. Because this could lead to possible, this is just from my own research, saying that there's speculation that with the ratifying of these laws and changing them, they could be um, possibly utilized in future, where a central banking system can come in, CBDC, and then they could be utilized in terms of the tokenization of New Zealand's resources. And, this is very crucial. And I don't think much people understand this. And I know maybe we can talk about this on another podcast, but I think it's important right now because right now in New Zealand, people are protesting right now. People are marching and saying, no, we've had enough. Uh,
What's brilliant? It's their energy, it's their
yes,
intention, it's the haka, it's the dance, it's the song, it's the footsteps that
yes,
are actually doing the magic. And it doesn't even matter about the legislation,
yes.
but it's that is the part that they are holding. And people are coming together and they're finding camaraderie, and they're saying, this is the kind of world we want to see, but it doesn't matter about the legislation. It's all going to go. It's going to the frequency can't even hold those lower densities. I do know that we are going to see governments go the way that we know them. We're going to be in a whole different reality. So it's actually the intentions and the heart. The part that destroys people and hurts the people is the fear of what they're doing, and it's the hatred, and it's the how dare they, and it's the generational cursing wounds which are upon the people that are still holding the imprints in them.
The
So
trauma.
yeah, so if they can remove that, if they can work with their generational curses, and we can do it all from ourselves. Um, and so that's what I see in that. And it's not right and it's not wrong. It just is what it is. um
And it's just showing how people can stand up and come together for a good cause when they see something that's not right, that could lead to potential
yeah,
disaster. They're coming up and they go, no, we
yeah,
don't want that to happen. And this is a form of
yeah,
them manifesting their intentions. It's
yeah,
peaceful and
yeah,
it's humane, but it's also saying, no, we've had enough. We don't want it. We don't want to be a part of that. We don't want that.
yeah. Look, I drove through a protest the other day, and I had little children, and these children were singing, and the joy was
Wonderful.
there, and that was like, to me, that does more than just about anything. Yeah. So, like, the thing is that when the Declaration of Independence came in, it was all. So I'm going to say I've got these notes. So the colonization of here, the first Masonic meeting was 1837. The first lodge was 1842. The Declaration was 1835. The Treaty of Waitangi allowed the governance to begin. The churches and the Masons brought in the colonization. It was Masonic, and it was really very much like the Declaration that came in. So if you look at America, okay, America, 1733, the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, the King Solomon Lodge, 1776. What was the Declaration? Was 1776, something like that?
1776, yes.
Yeah. So the colonization, this is Masonic. This was the word spell casting that fooled the people. Because this is alien technology. So you come into a land where people are living off the land, and there might have been a little bit of factions between tribes that I don't, because that was just the era of time. But it's not going to work. It's not going to work with black magic. Black magic doesn't correct black magic. Legislation will not correct legislation. I had a vision a long time ago that a laser light's going to come in and it's going to break it all down and burn it all out. And I do believe that we're in that time, but this is the knowledge that people would know. But there's just so much invested in there. There's so much pain. There's so much trauma from the time of Waitangi. There was genocide, the genocide of the people, all the diseases that got brought in, pitting people against one another, paying off people to become police, and to rip off their own people. This is it. It was all divide and conquer. So yeah, again, it comes back to this unitary consciousness. It's, I love the principles of aroha, tika, and pono. Those are the three things that matter most. So if everything can come from that, and what is true, but separating people from themselves, basically, from their family, from their cultures, they, what did they do?
From source.
Yeah, from source. So when they came over, the missionaries came over, they took all the children, they took them away from the families, they started to educate them, they started all wearing these bloody
Assimilate.
dresses. Yeah.
And we've seen a new form of assimilation happening technologically. And I feel that the technology has been used and abused to assimilate more people, especially through AI transhumanism, where you will lose your humanity, where technology will do the thinking for you, where you won't be able to feel you have a divine spark anymore.
Yeah, that's right. So everyone gets, like, it's already done to a lot of people. Some people are actually really taken over through the agendas which we saw coming ages ago, and don't even have to mention them so we can keep this online on YouTube. Actually, people are infused with that technology inside of their being, and they don't even know. Like, when you go into those realms, and you see the energy, they will appear like spiders, they'll appear like all sorts of different beings, and everybody, no one's been immune. We have to actually find out how to keep ourselves clear from that.
Keeping it clear, yes. Some of the indigenous cultures, particularly among the native indigenous, called this Watiko. You probably heard of the Watiko, which is a good example, which describes this cannibalistic spirit driven by greed, excess, selfish consumption. The mindset deludes individuals into believing that exploiting others, including animals and the environment, is justified for personal gain.
Yeah.
This is the mindset in the system, the actual current monetary capitalistic system. This is the mindset.
And when, what's his name, old Klaus Schwab says that everyone will be happy, well, it's because they might be all connected to AI, but they will be driven and they won't even realize that they're being driven. So again, they're going to be harvesting the consciousness of the human being through their technology. They can turn people off, they can turn people on. I mean, I was attacked with a heart attack earlier this year.
Wow.
Yeah, it came from technology outside. And then when I actually started to tell the truth about it, and I was involved with ACC, they just manipulate, turn everything around with lies, and they want to call it all. They wanted to call it drug-induced psychosis because I have had cannabis medicine for the pain and everything that I've been dealing with, the sicknesses in my body and the terrible pressure in my head, which was coming actually a lot of it from these implants that cause the disease, that are there. They are there to, as soon as you start to act up, they can turn it on, and so they can literally squeeze your head. It's just, but these things aren't even seen. But when you have to live with it, oh my gosh, do you know it? But the thing is, source energy is stronger, and the really good thing about it was that when I was in hospital, I actually got to resolve a lot of the MK Ultra programming by some of the things that were happening in the hospital with the technology, and I was supported. I was supported by this beautiful woman who worked with me solidly for a year to help me reclaim my memories, to be able to see what is what and who is who, and break things down and work things out, and to do all of that. So these things are collaborative, and now we need to come together more so collaboratively, and those are the source energies at the moment, is ultimate collaboration. And really it's time that we are connecting with our soul tribes, and we are realizing that we are source, we are magical beings, we're absolutely magical. So the black magicians, or those that are connected to the secret societies, there's many but they're all connected, they do that magic, but they pretend that there is no magic. Okay, so even partly that I know that the psychiatrist was quite likely an intelligence officer. Of course he's going to be stationed right there in ACC for anyone who claims that they've been exposed to satanic ritual abuse. The government doesn't want that known. They want to hide that. They want to keep that down as possible. So, I've said a lot, and exposed a lot. They did want to shut me down, and 6 days. So I get aware of anything that comes into my field, and so I had that appointment on a Monday, and on the Saturday, here this man is in my field. Oh, what the fuck are you doing here? I got really angry because I thought, and I've got another experience that I can relate back to that. But anyway, I was like, you clear off out of my field, and you do not have any access to my mind, to my consciousness. Whatever you are doing to me, it comes back to you. And literally I saw him double over in pain. And I was like, and you will not come against me. And anything you do against me, it's going to come back to you. So you kind of put the magic back onto them. But that was really savage. But part of the reason I knew that I had this gift was when Peter and I, when we were kind of like, we had the retreat center targeted, and they were trying to bankrupt Peter, and we got set up at this airport. It was like some bloody Mission Impossible thing. And anyway, they tried to serve papers on them, and Peter went and threw them on the floor, and I'm trying to film it, and we left, and we got followed by the police just about all the way back to our house. So we went off down another road, and then they did a U-turn and took off, and we went back. But that night, a presence came over the bed towards Peter. So I was, and the cats were all like, like this. And so I've been on PTSD, hyper alert forever. And I see this energy. It was literally going whoop, whoop, whoop,
Wow.
whoop, whoop, and right over the top of Peter. So I was like, get out of here, and off it goes. And then I'd like kind of get into sleep. And then I'm like coming back and then whoop, whoop, whoop. And this time I get a face with the energy. And I go, oh, and I told Peter, I said, oh, I had to deal with something last night, but Peter wasn't all that sensitive to it. He was like, yeah, whatever. But then they tried to serve the papers by email, and we looked up the lawyer who was trying to serve the papers, and his face matched exactly the face that I saw. So I get to
Wow.
see people in my field. So when I had this amazing woman who was working with me doing the land clearing and clearing of me, I saw her in my field because I had given her permission to be in my field. No one has permission to be in my field unless I give them permission. So if there's any invader, I actually often get to see a face, I'll get to see, and then I will get to deal with it. But we have to be tuned into that, and that's just part of the MK Ultra programming, the disturbance in my sight, my hearing. So yeah, okay, if you're going to give me or use me for all of these things to be your frickin' in your your secret space program, like a super soldier doing this and that, the other thing, well, actually, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to turn it around for good. And now I've met so many people. There's so many people that are turning it around for good. There's like survivors, anyone who survives satanic ritual abuse, they are the most amazing soul, because to survive it, you have to be able to be connected to source and connected to love. They do everything they can to disconnect us. So to find our way back, it's a miracle. And it's because we are here for a purpose. This is what, I know that they call it the bottom of the swamp. Yeah, in a sense, that's true, but I don't like where it was coming from. But it's actually people that have gone through that, and also, Maori, like the savage generational cursing on the bloods and the bloodline. And so that's why you'll have many matakiti or sia, tonga, in there, and they are accessed, and this was what they also tried to crush out of the culture.
Even through colonization in the early years, you weren't even allowed to speak your native tongue language at school, in
That's
the
right,
Western school.
and they had the Tohunga Suppression Act, and they've tried to get rid of all the natural therapies, or like I had to listen to the psychiatrist go on and on as if he knew more about herbs and plants than I did, and I was just like entertaining it. But he doesn't know anything. He didn't know anything, and he was much more, we need to shut this woman up and we need to suppress her. And then I had to bolt out of ACC and withdraw my consent for any involvement whatsoever. I went, yeah, and it's funny because I got a heads up a few months earlier that if I stayed with ACC, there would be consequences. And then I went, oh no, oh yeah, and yeah, I did have to deal with the consequences. It was freaking scary, until I realized the power that I have, because source is the highest of the highest. It will deal with, and source is kicking these bats at the moment because of the frequency. Their lower frequency just can't even sustain life here. That's why they want AI to dominate, because AI is quicker, and it's to do with the speed. Because our minds now work slower than time, because of the quickening time, culminating until it's just like,
I
we're
believe too that it seems like time is speeding up so fast right now, and the number of events happening in the short period of time is phenomenal. All these different events in the space of the time, it's just like speeding up. I was talking to one of my family members the other day, and they said, Wow, I haven't seen you for years, but it seems like only yesterday I last saw you. You know, it's like they feel like time's really speeding up, and I think this is part of what we're going through now also.
Yeah, so it's moving to timelessness, because in that higher dimension where love is, which people commonly call the fifth dimension, um, it's timeless. And it's the way of the heart, because the heart is the intuition of the heart, and love, when we're connected with love, in that moment we have the intuition to do what we need to do. It's unpredictable, so they've relied on predictability within humanity, and to keep humanity programmed, because everyone, they did experimentation with MK Ultra through the CIA, which incidentally, cannabis, especially if you take it as a medicine internally, you start to remember, it starts to break down the programming. So that's been a significant part of my journey to break down the MK Ultra programming. But now everybody is subject to that, because they learned so much about our brains and how they can compartmentalize everything, and how to shatter. And that's why sexual abuse is such a big thing for boys and girls. Um, it's more than people know. Like, a lot of people don't even remember their own sexual abuse, but it's actually a lot more. It has happened, um, because we're programmed to even forget it.
Yeah, interesting times. I would say we need to look at ourselves and realize who and what we are, awaken our divine spark within, and also those around us that are connected, that we can feel connected to. You know, as of late, I've been traveling around because that's one of my things I love doing is travel and meeting others, and especially going to significant places around the planet, like ley line places and things like that. Which is I'm going to be going to China and Great Wall very soon, which I'm looking forward to, and meeting some great other Divine Spark people. And I think the more we can congregate, more we can come together, more we can wake up other people, more we can create a critical mass awareness and realize who and what we are, and then we are the ones who can create our future together
Yeah,
collectively.
because the spark is always going to create the highest and the best. But it's really amazing. Working with the Earth's ley lines is really key. And I was actually doing grid work in Malaysia. And one of the first ones I really wanted to do, I was aware of the child trafficking there. And that's when my memories started to flood in. And that's what woke up my memories, so that I could actually start to heal. So if we just send love to the earth, and especially we just walk those ley lines, because they also use the ley lines for satanic rituals to try and bring trauma, and so that earth is holding the trauma of the terror of what's going on within these rituals. So I'm aware that I was used that way as well, and other survivors speak of that. So it's actually to put the love and that high frequency of just our connection with those ley lines. Just, it's beautiful, beautiful work. So I'm very grateful for that, what you're doing there, Wiri.
Thank you. Yes, because I believe that if we can actually gather en masse divine sparks on these ley points, meditate, connect back with prime source, prime consciousness, I believe the matrix illusion will topple. I believe
Yes, it
that's how
will.
this matrix illusion will topple through divine sparks meditating on these grid lines.
Well, our consciousness is always going to be connecting. So if we're all removing these shields, then that's going to also remove from there, because it's sort of like, we're in the physical simulation. So whatever is happening in here is happening out there, but it's all the divine sparks coming in together, and you get a collective,
Yes.
enough of a collective. Yeah, we can obliterate that shield. In fact, if we had enough people, we could obliterate it together.
Maybe 144,000?
Possibly. I mean, that's one of the perfect geometric numbers.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something in that. There's definitely something in that. And I don't know, is that the amount of earth angels here? I'm not sure. Like the earth angels, I'm just saying, we so many of us came here to take on stuff to clear it out, and that's one thing that's helped me to get through. I've had to see the bigger picture of, otherwise, like, why would I even choose to carry on? Why would I even choose to live, like, after what was done and the damage? And
Yes, we are the cleanest, the cleanest dirty house at the moment. There's a bit of mess
yeah,
in it.
yeah. But look at us, laughing, we're joyful. Like, I wasn't so laughing and joyful before, but I am now,
Yeah.
and I feel light, and I feel playful, and I feel grounded, and I feel amazing.
Yeah. I
Even
think
though I've still got this physical stuff that's just coming, it's going to work itself out with all the
exactly.
recent healing
And I think this
that
is
I've had.
our true state, where we can be in this vibe, laughing and having fun, but we know the work is there.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
feel that it will happen. It'll just happen. We just gotta connect with our intuition too, and use our intuition as our guide, our compass. And I think it'll
yeah,
navigate us through all the noise of the matrix.
yep, yep. And take nothing too seriously, actually. Like, oh, okay. One thing that I like, because I still get memories, I still see things, and it's like, it's this big stuff. It's like going underground through super speeding stuff. I know I've been down to the
Wow.
English underground, things like this. But when I have those memories now, I go, oh, yeah, yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. But when I first got them, it's like, oh my God,
Yes,
it's
yes.
just like, oh, it's so horrifying, I can't handle it. And now it's like, yeah, that's what they do. Yep, that's
Yes.
what they do. Yep, that's what they do.
You're ready for those downloads, for that information, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the
Amazing.
game, the blame, the shame, the name. Yeah.
Thank you, Poppy. We've talked a lot. I'd love to actually just do a random podcast with you sometime, just talking about whatever. For now, though, I think, do you have like a place where people can come if they want to find out more about some of the information you talked about today? Is there a website or email you may have that people can connect with you?
Um, okay, so I use the, what do you call it? The at Mayan Missions. So that's on Substack, that's on YouTube. And then I also, I mainly, I sort of started everything on Facebook. And so people can check in with the daily energies if they want. And like, a lot of people, they'll come along for quite a while, and then they just take off on their own, and they're connected and they're doing it. So sometimes people just come along and they watch for a little while or whatever. But I've been through so many progressions and so many upgrades and so much change and everything while I've been reporting, that yeah, no, I feel like now that they can come. So yeah, if you look at Substack, at Mind Missions, um, YouTube, at Mind Missions.
Great. We'll put
Um,
your details in the description below. Do you have any final comments, insights you want to share before we finish?
I'm just extremely grateful to everyone that is like finding their divine spark, like just knowing who you are, knowing why you're here, and what you're doing, and each one of us, every single one of us, is contributing, and I don't ever underestimate your contribution to this, like finding our soul tribes, and helping us through, uplifting each other, encouraging one another. Um, yeah, so that's really what I can say. I just want to honor the people that are listening, especially if they've got right through to here. Then yeah, thank you for who you are and what you're doing.
Thank you, Poppy, for joining us today. We'll see you next time, maybe on another podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this podcast, and to our special guest, Poppy. Very interesting topic today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. topic and this discussion, give us a thumbs up if you did, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions for myself or for Poppy. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. Experience the journey, inspire others, live life. See you guys later.